we knew this was coming. This was expected for a long time here, a couple weeks, really since the combine last week is when we really got the official word from Ian Rappaport that this was the expectation. But the Patriots electing not to franchise J.C. Jackson and letting him go to the open market. I would categorize it at this point that J.C. Jackson has priced himself out of New England. Now, this could come back, right? They don't know officially that JC has a deal out there that is going to price him out of being a New England Patriot. So it wouldn't shock me. Crazier things have happened than the Patriots jumping back into this late when JC Jackson officially becomes a free agent next week. But as of right now, no tag, and it looks very, very unlikely that he's going to be back in New England next season, Alex.
Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of known this the last couple of days. Again, I'm overall surprised with the result just because of not even like JC's a great player, but in addition to that, who they have behind him. But let's see, here we go. This is a kind of, in Bill we trust moment. He's going against the curve, and he's hit sometimes in these situations. Sometimes they haven't been kind to him. So we don't know the whole picture here. What's the next move, right? I'm not going to sit here and say definitively, oh, this is brilliant, or oh, this is awful. A lot of this is, what do you do with it, right? What are you going to do with this opportunity? Where does the money go? How do you improve the cornerback position? But, I was operating throughout most of the offseason under the assumption JC Jackson would be back. So I'm overall surprised.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that after last year, after uncharacteristically aggressive, I'm glad that I can say that again in some capacity. After uncharacteristically aggressive, it did feel like the Patriots were operating a little bit differently than how they operated during the Tom Brady era. Letting J.C. Jackson walk and replacing him with a player through the draft or through even free agency that's a fraction of the cost, that's a Belichick move in the Brady era. That's how they used to operate during the Tom Brady era in New England, where they let Ty Law go. They let Asante Samuel go. They let Aqib Talib go. They let Malcolm Butler go, right? And the list goes on and on and on. That used to be how they would operate then. I thought after last offseason that this might be a little bit different, and I specifically thought that having a quarterback that you feel good about being your franchise quarterback and a guy like Mac Jones would change the fact that they aren't paying the quarterback $25+ million a year, and they would be willing to move this money around elsewhere, right? And they would be willing to give out those big contracts and have the position players being at the very top of the ledger instead of the quarterback. And this move with J.C. Jackson tells me that the old Bill Belichick, who looks for value, who doesn't want to overpay his own guys, that doesn't want to be stuck with a bad contract, as ironic as it is, given some of the contracts they signed last offseason, that guy's still here. He still exists in some capacity. The Patriots didn't operate like they did last offseason with Jonnu Smith and Nelson Aguilar and some of the other contracts that they gave out that now in hindsight look a little bit questionable. And that's where I find it to be the most interesting, is that because they had all this money last year, they were comfortable with taking a little bit of risk on with some of those free agent additions, but they weren't comfortable taking on a little bit risk for one of their own guys. And I'm not saying that they're going to really regret this necessarily. It's not anything crazy like they're losing the locker room over any of these moves, but I do find it interesting that the old Bill has come back a little bit in these negotiations, and now all of a sudden they are getting fiscally smart in their mind, right? They're chasing value, and they're not going to reset the cornerback market for a guy that's probably in the 5 to 10 tier of cornerbacks in the NFL, but he's not the best cornerback in the NFL. So in the Patriots' eyes, we're not going to compensate him like he's Jalen Ramsey because he's not Jalen Ramsey, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, they do a tier. They put less value in, I don't know what the term would be. I guess would be inflation, right?
Right.
Guys who aren't necessarily the best at the position will get the most money because the cap goes up. It's about percentage of the cap, right?
Right.
They're not going to necessarily put the value in that. They're going to say, this is what Jalen Ramsey's making. It doesn't matter what salary cap he signed it under. you're not better than him. We're not paying you more than that. That's kind of, I think, what this comes down to.
Right. So now the question is not that we didn't expect this. First thing I want to ask you, do you think that there's any chance, and when I say any chance, obviously there's always a chance of anything happen, but is there an actual decent percentage chance that JC Jackson hits the open market next week, the Patriots survey the field, Jackson comes back to them, like we've seen with Devin McCourty, like we've seen with Dante Hightower in the past, and says, I got $18 million per year on the table from the Chargers, from the Raiders, whoever it ends up being, and the Patriots actually go out and match it? Is there a chance that they're letting the market dictate his value instead of bidding against themselves, which is what they would be doing right now, because technically nobody can actually negotiate with JC Jackson. So there is a potential that they don't want to give him $20 million a year because they're not sure anybody else would give him $20 million a year.
Right. I mean, look, is it technically possible? Yes. Like, I think that's their thought process, right? I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to get the bag. I think he's going to get 20.
Right.
Because you look at the teams that need a corner, they have cap space. The Chargers, the Raiders. I mean, and boy, in that AFC West now, and I'm sure we'll get to the Russell Wilson trade in a little bit, but
yes,
you better be able to play in the secondary if you want to win games in the AFC West, right? So those teams have all the more reason now to make JC Jackson their big signing of the offseason, right? So I'm sure that the Patriots will leave that door open. Like, I could totally see them saying that, like, go out there and see what you get and come back to us with it. But I also think that, it's highly likely that he comes back and says, all right, I'm getting 20 million a year from the Chargers. I'm getting 21 a year from the Raiders, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Patriots just say, well, congratulations.
You did it.
Best of luck to you. Yeah. Don't forget about us when you're a big shot, all that. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at with that, is that I'm sure that they would, if they could match it, they'd match it. I don't think they'll be able to match it at the end of the day. Dude's about to get paid.